Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the No More Shame Project Google Hangout. I am Athena Moberg, and this is Bobby Parrish.
Hi, everybody. We're so happy that you're here. I feel like I say that every week, but to be honest with you, we are very happy that you're here. This is why we do what we do, is to connect with you and hopefully make your life and your recovery a lot better. So I am very happy that you're here joining us.
Yeah. If you are new to the No More Shame Project, the No More Shame Project, it began, the whole concept began back in January. There was a Twitter chat that was started by Rachel Thompson, best-selling author, and our very own Bobby Parrish. And I sort of stumbled across them on Twitter, introduced myself, and it was just such a warm welcome, and it was incredible and amazing. And the theme of this Twitter chat was all for sexual abuse survivors, obviously. And the theme quickly began to sort of morph into hashtag no more shame, no more shame. We wanted to just rid ourselves of shame by talk. We found that the more we talked about the abuse we incurred during our childhood, the more our shame just sort of melted away. So the beginning stages of the No More Shame Project were, well, let's write a book. And then it just sort of morphed into, it started off with a Twitter chat, which turned into Google Hangouts, which we do every single week now, which turned into podcasts, which turned into an anthology, which it's just this big, huge conglomeration of a whole bunch of different people wanting to get rid of shame. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes, and there's so many ways that you could be accessing us tonight. You could be watching live right now on YouTube or on our webpage, which is nomoreshameproject.com. Athena, who is a master designer and developer, has set up a page there, and it's nomoreshameproject.com/watch. Is that
Yes.
it, Athena, where they could see
Yes.
it? Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then nomoreshameproject.com/videos is where they can watch all the videos from the prior Hangouts.
Yes.
Oh,
There's a
yeah.
little tab at the top that says our video library, and if you click on our video library, it takes you directly to our YouTube channel that has an entire catalog of
Yes.
very helpful videos for your trauma recovery. And as I say every single week, we are always wanting for this to be the 1 hour of your week that is the most informative for healthy, informed trauma recovery. We want you to be in charge of your trauma recovery. We don't want you to have
Yep.
to wait until next month or next week or next year till you can get an appointment with someone who puts you on medication. We want to give you practical tools that you can use right now. And that's not to
Yep.
say that you shouldn't, depending on what stage of trauma you're in right now, if you're in crisis, or if you do need to go see your therapist or your counselor, your mental health professional, and be on medication or what have you. Those are definitely options that are in your toolbox, and we just want to be another tool in your toolbox so that you can be as equipped as possible to deal with the different phases and symptoms of trauma recovery, wherever you're at in your trauma journey, whether you're just now having your very first memories of some sort of thing that happened with Uncle Harold when you were 7 years old, or if you are, you've been in counseling for 30 years and you have been journaling and you're quite far down the road, and or perhaps you've just been you voluntarily went into a facility and you're out now and you really just want to feel good again. We want to help you feel good again and to know that there's no shame in reaching out for help and being in community with other survivors.
You bet. Wherever you are in your recovery journey, we want to come alongside you and help you get farther along during the path and feel more like you can reclaim your life and live joyfully again.
Yeah.
And so how else would people be accessing us if they're not watching right now on the YouTube channel or on our website?
Well, we have lots of stuff in the works right now. We have our awesome friend John, who knows a whole bunch about podcasting, and so he's helping us. We're in the process. You could be listening to us down the road some from iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud or iHeartRadio, and you could even be accessing us right now from a Roku device. And I just want to say, if that is you and you're listening or watching later on down the road and you're not here on our live broadcast, you're here for a purpose. This is that one moment in time that you were supposed to tune into us. And so we're happy you're here. We believe this is for a purpose. And we look forward to connecting with you personally. We're going to put up our contact information later. Yeah. We're real people just like you, and we're going through
survivors.
We're both survivors of years of childhood trauma and sexual abuse. So we are recovering right along with you, and we want to be a source of information and support and encouragement for you. We have an entire group of survivors that we have been in community with for quite some time that are actually contributing authors to an anthology that was just released on Monday. And again, like I said last week, Bobby, I just want to acknowledge each and every person that was a contributing author. It is terrifying to write your truth, and when your truth includes sexual exploitation or abuse at the hands of people who were supposed to be your loved ones or people who are trusted, it's even a little bit more terrifying because you have these fears of some sort of backlash or someone trying to minimize what it is that's happened. So just want to acknowledge the contributing authors to our anthology. The anthology is titled Discovering True. And if you go to Amazon.com, you can type in Discovering True Anthology, and you will see it pop up there at the top. And, oh, I forgot to give a little shout out to our UK watchers and listeners. It is like 2 in the morning right now, and you guys are totally amazing. You're rock stars every week. You show up at 2, 3 in the morning. Well, I don't even know how you do it, but you are. So shout out to anybody that's listening in the UK. We had our very first childhood sexual abuse question time chat that happened just this past Monday. Yep. And there is a wonderful gal in the UK. Her name is Susan, and she's just an incredible advocate for survivors. So thank you, Susan. You can reach Susan on Twitter at Shiny Blue Dress, and she's just a wonderful woman and just always looking to help other people. So, gosh, Bobby, I know I'm forgetting something. I'm forgetting something. I know I am. I know we have our event coming up. Another part of the No More Shame project that we sort of have like collaborated in this bit like joint effort of all of us. We are going to hold an event. We're holding an event the last weekend in June of 2015. It's going to be on the West Coast in the Pacific Northwest at a beautiful retreat center. Yay! And so we are going to hang out with you. We're going to have some premium tickets that are available for like the Thursday night before that weekend, and it'll just be real small and intimate with Bobby and myself and some of the other anthology authors. And then the weekend will be, some breakout sessions, some general sessions where we have some really wonderful keynote speakers. And this project is just so much bigger than us. It's so much bigger than Bobby and Rachel and I, and we're just so excited that there are so many resources that we're pooling together so that you, the trauma survivor, can feel equipped in your journey and supported and encouraged. So reach out to us and ask us anything that you might be struggling with or anything that you might need. And I think that might be all of our housekeeping items, Bobby, and we can dive right into content.
Public service announcements. Okay.
Announcements.
Yes. Tonight we're talking about executive functioning. And I know that last night some people had a difficult time in chat. I'm leaning on my desk here and my camera's wiggling. Coming to understand this material and learn this material. So I just want to give everyone a heads up that this might be difficult for you to hear tonight, but we think it's essential that you hear it. And I want you to look at it as relief. I want you to hear it with relief, knowing, oh, that's why I struggle with some of these things. So just keep in mind that in the long run, this is kind of good news, and we'll teach you some ways on how to deal with it. But executive functioning, it's in your prefrontal lobe here in this part of your brain, and it's basically the command center of the brain. It controls reasoning, logic, decision making. It's your working memory. And by your working memory, I mean, say, for example, someone asks you, what's 27 times 43? Well, and if you do that mental math, you have to remember part and remember this part and then add them together. That's your working memory, something that you're holding in your memory while you're working out a problem. So executive functioning controls that working memory, and it controls things like organization, the ability to discern short-term and long-term consequences to particular decisions. It's very much controlled around decision-making and problem solving. And unfortunately, when we undergo years of trauma, meaning, and I don't mean one event, but I mean a sustained trauma over a long period of time, and it doesn't have to be sexual abuse, it can be any kind of trauma, but especially trauma over a long period of time when you're a child, your body releases, every time your body encounters trauma, it releases those fight or flight hormones. And our body is meant to not release those on a sustained basis. It's meant to release those periodically to give us that boost of adrenaline that we need to shallow our breathing, not taking as much oxygen, run faster, escape. But when we undergo long periods of trauma and those chemicals are released and released and released and released in our brain, it's basically becomes a toxic soup for our brain to sit in. And that damages, permanently damages our brain. And one of the places that it damages the most is your prefrontal cortex, meaning it damages that executive functioning. So for those of us who underwent many years of abuse, especially when we were children, because when you undergo all of that abuse as a child, it also interrupts your development. So you miss developmental milestones, your personality is affected, all of that stuff can be affected. But when it's long-term abuse, you also then get that brain damage, and it damages that executive functioning. Some of us more than others, some of us less than others, but you might find yourself having a hard time remembering things. You have a hard time making decisions, especially if you have to make a quick decision. Sometimes you make a decision that doesn't take into account a long-term consequence. And therefore, in the end, when you go back and look at it, you think, oh, that was a really good decision. You have a hard time organizing your day. You have a hard time organizing your desk. You have a hard time managing your time. Those are all executive functioning skills that were damaged by your abuse. Okay? It's not because you're weak. It's not because you're stupid. It's not because you have done anything wrong, and that's really what I want to hear you. If you're listening and you're going, oh my gosh, I struggle with those things. I struggled with those things for so long. I thought it was me. I just thought I wasn't a good person. And chances are that you may have been shamed by family members, by a partner, at work, people telling you you're stupid, you're lazy, you're no good, because you have these impairments. But it's not true. You're none of those things. What you have is some damage due to that long term of abuse that you sustained. So that's what I want you to hear, is that this is not your fault. You're not stupid. You're not lazy. You're not no good. You have some brain damage that you have to learn how to work around. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is also how PTSD plays into all this, and we're going to help you do some workarounds so that you can manage your life successfully given the brain damage that you have. Athena, chime in here and tell me if you think I'm missing anything in this introduction to what executive functioning is.
Oh no, I think that that is a really great description of what executive functioning is, and I think it's really important to remember that. And we're going to dive right into our one page. If you're listening in and you're not watching us live, or even if you are watching us live, we, as a thank you for being a watcher or a listener, we have a free gift for you, and all you have to do is go to nomoreshameproject.com and click on the tab there that says downloadables, and you will get immediate access to all of our one-page resources. It's a full library of one-page resources that always matches up with the topic that we discuss every week. Tonight's topic is survivors and executive functioning. So we're going to go down this one-page resource and we're going to talk about that. It's really important for you to understand that we're not telling you any of this to be a gloom and doom, like doomsdayers or anything. It's actually quite the opposite. We're sharing this information with you, letting you know that the damage that your brain incurred at the hands of your abusers left permanent scars. Now, that doesn't mean that you're doomed forever, you're screwed forever, you're gonna be struggling forever, and that you can never make progress in those areas. That is absolutely not what we are talking about. And what we are not talking about are emotions. The executive functioning in our brain is the part of our brain, like Bobby was explaining, the prefrontal cortex, it does not handle emotions. Am I happy? Am I sad? Am I this? Am I that? It's not that at all. It is actually when you are sitting down to do your job, and I do have just a couple of examples, Bobby, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And then we can dive right into our one page, because it's a very meaty, full of very thick content. Our one page is tonight. So, but what I wanted to give you guys just a real quick example of what executive functioning, what this looks like in real life. You guys know if you've been watching for a couple of months now, I'm always like, what does that look like in real life in my house with my husband? So I want to give you two examples of executive functioning, how I struggle, I'm impaired, I have permanent brain damage, and how I have made arrangements or plans or choices in my life to literally reroute my brain to go a different direction, to sort of almost overcompensate or literally take a different road so that I don't get stuck on those areas that I would normally get stuck because of the brain damage that I have incurred. So what does that even look like in real life? I want to go ahead and I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to sit up and sort of get up in your face if I can. So what I want to share with you is I used to work at an office job before I was a trauma recovery coach and before I was working with single moms and helping people with their businesses. I worked a corporate job. I worked for corporate America. And when you're working at a corporate job, many of you know, you are very much, it is like almost like a brownie button that you wear if you're able to multitask. Well, executive functioning, as we're going to read on our one page in just a couple of moments, it really affects the area of your brain that helps you to multitask. So me, living in corporate America, working at a desk job where I was the executive assistant. I've been the executive assistant to the CEO, the chairman, the partner that was in charge of a search firm, a travel industry that was at a 5-diamond luxury hotel, the Ritz-Carlton. I've literally worked at all these different positions as the executive assistant to someone big and important. Well, when you're an executive assistant, you manage multiple tasks at a time. You have reports, you manage people's calendars, their travel arrangements, you manage everything, and you literally, if you have damage in your prefrontal cortex or the area of your brain that handles your executive functioning, little things like multitasking or holding someone's calendar, taking a phone call, having someone on hold, remembering that you need to go to the restroom or eat or whatever, it can all be quite overwhelming, and you literally will not be able to handle all of those things at one time in a way that is normal without being in crisis, without having a PTSD meltdown. So what that looked like for me and how I overcame those challenges, I literally went into my Outlook calendar because I was on a Microsoft platform. I went into Outlook and I literally set myself reminders. I reminded myself that I needed to handle certain reports, even if they were reports that I would automatically normally, like everyone else in the whole wide world remembers that those are the reports they do. I literally had reminders in my calendar for the entire day, and they would repeat every single weekday, every single day. I reminded myself to do certain reports. I reminded myself to make sure that I checked for the different amenities that I was supposed to have for guests. I reminded myself to eat. I reminded myself to go for a walk. I would remind myself literally that I was great at what I did for a living, because I knew that there was going to be certain points that came along in my day when I would be doubting my abilities because of these struggles that I have in my brain. So I literally reminded myself with affirmations, and I cannot tell you how important it is to think ahead and outsmart your circumstances. You have damage and you need to outsmart that damage, and the way that you're going to outsmart that damage is by taking these tools that we give you, and you're going to make yourself stronger so that when you are struggling in certain areas and you come to an area that's normally difficult for you, you will have thought 12 steps ahead of that, and it will already be a strength for you. Rather than being surprised by it and being a weakness, it will be a strength. I do have another example, but I want to dig into the content, and I'll just, if Bobby remembers later to remind me, then I'll share that other example with you. But please just know that there's hope, and we're going to give you amazing tools that are going to help you and that are going to equip you to outsmart these things that have happened to you. And I'm telling you, what was meant for evil is going to be used for good, because you are going to be 12 steps ahead of everybody else.
Yes.
Once you employ these tactics that we are giving you right now. So
you bet.
I know I'm all up in your face right now. I'm going to just turn this over to Bobby so you guys can see the screen. And I'm going to lean back and relax again. They're like, wow, we don't know if we like scary Athena, because, man, she's like on fire.
You're not scary. You're passionate.
I'm very passionate about this.
You're passionate, and we're both passionate about people not taking this information and going, oh, my word, look at me. This is bad. What we want you to understand is that this doesn't equate to you being bad. This doesn't equate to anything other than this is an issue, and we need to find some ways around it, find some ways to work around it. The brain is very plastic. We can't undo the damage that the abuse did, but we can rewire other circuits in your brain so that eventually your brain will do some of these things automatically.
Yeah.
We absolutely can do this. And I want to mention really quick before we go on to how to cope with those, I want to mention that when your PTSD flares up, on a normal day and a normal given day, I have problems with my executive functioning. And I'd say my impairment is, relatively moderate. But when my PTSD flares up, then there are points where I'm pretty non-functional. I may get, a couple things off my to-do list during the day, but I have so little working memory. I have virtually no problem-solving skills. It is a struggle just for me to get through the day and remember to shower, to pick my son up from school. I have nightmares that I leave him at school. To keep us fed and clothed and, all the basic things. And that's not because I have any kind of character flaw. That's because when my PTSD is really bad, my executive functioning is almost none. And I have to recognize that and give myself the grace and say, this is what it is right now, and I'm just going to wade my way through it, and it's going to get better. And know that it's going to get better. If you have just sort of a slight impairment in your executive functioning without a PTSD flare-up, when your PTSD does increase or kick in because you've been triggered, then you might see, some moderate impairment. It will go from slight to moderate for you. So watch for those things and give yourself the grace to know that it's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's all a byproduct of that trauma that you sustained, either as a child or perhaps as an adult, in a war situation or domestic violence. So let's talk about it. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, so if you're just tuning in to the No More Shame Project podcast, I wanted you to know that we're discussing executive functioning and that there is a complimentary downloadable one page for you. All you have to do is go to nomoreshameproject.com and touch the tab that says downloadables, and you're given access to our entire library, and that's just a complimentary gift to you. So what we're discussing with executive functioning, Bobby was just mentioning that when we do have a PTSD episode in our executive functioning, it does decrease during those times. And some things to look out for that we're going to move down into the choices we can make and how we can cope and little tips and strategies. But I just want to let you know that if you are having difficulty managing tasks, or you are having difficulty, you don't even have the ability to remember details that you would typically normally remember. You're having trouble remembering them, or if you really feel an increased level of stress, even though nothing is really like stressing you out at the moment, or if there's a decline in your ability to make good decisions, and you're kind of like, why did I do that? That was kind of a bonehead thing for me to do, or and you're realizing that the number of tasks that you normally handle on a daily basis is all of a sudden too many tasks for you to handle on this given day. Those are the times, those are the things to look out for, and we really want you to pause in those moments and go, you know what? I could be having one of those moments that Bobby and Athena mentioned, where I need to really be patient with myself and show myself some grace, because this could be due to something that happened to me previously. I could be struggling with this area of my brain. So I just wanted to remind people that we have all of those things listed on our one page, and then Bobby is going to equip us right now with some excellent tips on how we can really be ahead of the game, and in the moment that we're struggling, what can we possibly do? What tool can we use to ease our stress, our pain, our frustration? She's going to equip us right now with all of those amazing tools, and we have them all as a resource written down for you if you wanted to go look at those.
Yes. And just real quick, I want to give a shout out to Jack on Twitter. He said watching live right now. So
yay! Hi, Jack.
I just waved at you, although you can't see because I have a PDF.
I'm waving too. Hi, Jack. Thank you so much for your support. And then Pepper sent a message again saying she never gets to watch live, but she sure does love watching those videos. So thank you. If you want to send us a question, please just use the No More Shame hashtag. That's hashtag No More Shame. Send us a question, and we'll get your tweet, and we'll try to answer your question. And before the end of this broadcast, I do wanted to make sure that I would give a shout out to all of the people on Instagram and in other areas of social media that have decided to don our button and really display it in prominent places to show people that they're really all about breaking the shame of our previous abuse from our childhood by talking about it and being really open with discussion so that we can get rid of that shame and stigma.
Yes. In honor of No More Shame November.
Yeah!
Okay, let's talk about how we can cope with those impairments in our executive functioning. And Athena, who I love to death, put together this wonderful acronym. Now, one thing that Athena and I know for certain is that survivors in general are visual people. And the reason we're visual people is because we had to develop high visual skills in order to try and keep ourselves safe as a child. You're constantly watching the environment around you. You want to see, is someone upset? Is someone coming? Is someone leaving? You know, what's my danger level? Is everybody quiet and looking angry? And so we tend to be very visually oriented because we had to be that way as a survival instinct when we were children. And it just happens to be now it's one of our strengths. And so she put together this acronym in an effort to help us remember, and it's PARENT. And the first one is P, and P is practice excellent self-care. Remember to try and do your deep breathing. Try not to let yourself get stressed because you're having a hard time. Give yourself the extra time and the grace that you need. Remember to ground yourself with tactile sensations rather than letting your emotions flood you and take you off into perhaps a dissociative episode.
Hey, Bobby, would you remind everyone what a tactile sensation is?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Here, let me do something. Because this is one of my tactile sensations. I have this necklace, and it has kind of sharp edges on it. not sharp, like cut me sharp, but sharp as in definitive corners and angles. And so when I struggle, you'll see me doing this with my necklace. And what I'm doing is I'm running my fingers over the sharper edges on it to ground myself back in my body and really pay attention to that tactile sensation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, it does, definitely. I will walk
Yeah.
outside onto my patio. You can't see it because the light is shining in on the windows, but
Uh-huh.
what I do is I walk out on my patio and I touch the railing and it's rough. The railing is rough and it really grounds me and I can feel the breeze. Or if I'm inside and I'm not going outside because it's really humid or hot or what have you, I'll run my hands under cold water and
Yeah. I do that too. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I can in that moment just feel something to where I just, okay, I get out of my head.
Right.
So that is the P in parent.
Yes.
Practice excellent self-care. And
Yes.
these are all ways that you can practice excellent self-care, the ways we just
Yes.
told you about.
Absolutely. The A is for access your support system, whether that's your therapist, your coach, your support group, all for help in reducing your PTSD symptoms. Because keep in mind that the higher level your PTSD symptoms are, the corresponding amount that your executive functioning might decrease. So try and get those PTSD symptoms into check and relieved and reduced, and that will automatically give you an increase in your executive functioning.
Yes, that was one of the questions during our Twitter chat. We mentioned earlier that our Twitter chat started in January, and it was founded by Rachel Thompson and Bobby Parrish. Last night, it's every single Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, and you just use the hashtag #SexAbuseChat. Last night during chat, one of the questions ended up being, what are some ways that I can decrease my PTSD or get it under control so that I can get back into a functioning state? Because if you're struggling with executive functioning on top of PTSD, chances are it's going to lead to overwhelm, which then at the end of the day could lead to shame or depression. And then if you have depression plus PTSD plus executive functioning, you're just going in a downward spiral. We want to stop that downward spiral, and we want you to reach out to we want you to the A in parent is access your support system.
Right, and that is something with trauma and trauma survival and abuse survival, is there's so many self-reinforcing cycles and spirals, and recognizing that and knowing the typical ones for you is so powerful, because when you know your cycles, when you know the spirals, you can interrupt them. And that's what we want to do. We want to help you interrupt this one by accessing your support system to interrupt the PTSD episode. And once that is decreasing, you will definitely see an increase in your executive functioning. And then we go on to R, which is recognize. This one's so important, you guys. Recognize that your difficulties are not due to laziness and personal weakness. There is a biological reason you are struggling, so give yourself a lot of grace. Multiple people last night in chat talked about how they had been called stupid or they had been shamed for struggling with some things that fall under the executive functioning category. And that was so toxic.
It was because that's what they started to believe about themselves. That's what we started to believe. I mentioned in chat last night that one of the favorite, and this is going to be a vulgar moment, folks, so I apologize for all of my sweet women of faith that are watching, or my ladies and gentlemen that are strong in their faith. If you're listening, this is vulgar moment for me, and I'm just prefacing that. But one of the favorite names that I was called by a lot of my abusers when I was younger was a lazy ass. I got called a lazy ass. And I'm sorry, but what does that even mean, lazy ass? I mean, it wasn't my ass that was being lazy, and I certainly wasn't being lazy. I was struggling. I was struggling to have the energy and the coping. I didn't even know how to cope with some of the things I was dealing with. I was in such a state of trauma. So I see myself through that lazy ass lens my whole life. I overcompensate and I go on some sort of a treadmill of doing a million different things, trying to impress myself so that I can at the end of the day not feel like a lazy ass. And I just have to say right now that that is just from the pit of hell. I mean, who calls anyone that, first of all, when they're
Especially a
young,
child.
especially a child? And now here I am, and I'm an adult, and I automatically think that if I'm not doing something 24 hours a day, that I'm a lazy ass. And I'm just going to tell you right now that I need to get out of my own head and not allow myself to be triggered right now, and just breathe so that I don't get flooded with all these negative messages, because I'm telling you, hearing all of this stuff and actually recognizing, that's why the R in parent is recognize. I need to recognize that it's not my fault, and that I am not what happened to me. I am not going to allow what happened to me to impair me and keep me down and keep me from living out my purpose. So we're wanting you to know right now that you are not any of the names that you've been called. You are not the abuse that happened to you. You are worthy. You're amazing. You're smart. You're compassionate. You're kind. You are highly gifted and talented. I know, because many of you that are watching or even listening right now, I've probably met you in some way, shape, or form, whether online or in person. And I know that you're amazing. And so please, 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 really focus on the R of this acronym that we're giving you, of recognizing that this does not define you, and it is a lie. It is a lie, lie, lie. You have to dispel the lie.
Absolutely. Kick that lie out of your head, because it is not true. You are not the names that you were called as a child. Let's move down to E, which is edit your to-do list to a manageable size. For example, only necessary tasks. And this is a hard one. I know it is, because, as Athena just mentioned, many survivors come into adulthood with that drive to disprove all of the things that they were shamed for as a child, all the names that they were called. And so they come into adulthood and they're like, I am just going to, whether they're conscious of it or not, I am going to, take the world by storm. I'm going to prove that I'm worth something.
I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to prove them wrong. And we're here to tell you, you don't have to prove it to anybody. You're already amazing. You're already amazing.
I want to share here really quick that when I was in high school, my senior year, I was voted most likely to succeed. And then I went on and just struggled. I mean, struggled. My depression, PTSD just hit me like a ton of bricks. I ended up getting divorced. I was actually disabled for a while by my depression, in and out of psychiatric wards, ended up with one suicide attempt. And I was so ashamed of where I was, given what I thought people expected of me. And it was very hard. It was a challenging time for me, because I felt like I was supposed to amount to something. And look at me, I amounted to nothing. And I had to give myself the grace to know that the things that I was going through were not because I did not have the potential to succeed. It was because of the abuse. It did not have to do with my intelligence or my drive. It had to do with the abuse that damaged my brain, hampered my development, and left me without the tools to succeed in the adult world. I had to learn them myself, but once I got out and I learned them and I got on my feet, now I can say, one, that I think I'm succeeding, and two, that I've realized that being voted most likely to succeed when you're a senior in high school is not the end-all be-all standard for which one should set themselves up. But I get it. I get it. And I tell you guys, I get it. I understand. Okay, so
edit your to-do list to a manageable size.
That's right.
E in parent.
Jack is telling us that when he was in high school, he was voted most dramatic. He said, and his peers could already see the damage. Wow.
Oh, no.
That's hard.
It's heartbreaking
It
because
is,
we
right?
know Jack to be this expressive, compassionate, incredibly communicative, and fired up individual that just wants to make everything better and wants to, um, you know, make sure that not only himself but his child and his spouse and everyone else just has everything they could possibly need. And Jack, we're just here to tell you that we think you're amazing, and I'm voting you the MVP. So,
Absolutely.
so I don't care what they said.
That's right. Exactly. Um, this next one is important, and Athena mentioned it earlier. No multitasking. And
Wait, back up. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Back up just 1 second.
okay,
Wait, okay, so we're discussing the acronym PARENT. If you're looking at the one page, nomoreshameproject.com, click on downloadables. Download the one page that says executive functioning. Down on the bottom, there's an acronym that says PARENT. On the letter E, it says edit your to-do list to a manageable size. This
yep.
is to help you with your executive functioning. In parentheses, it says
Ah,
you have to employ someone from your support team if necessary. This is something that I want to tell you right now. There is no shame in calling up someone that is in your safe group, whether it be your
yep.
spouse or a friend or a therapist or a coach or someone in an online support group that you're in or what have you, and saying, I'm really struggling with PTSD today and my executive functioning is really frustrating me. I think I need you to help me figure out what I absolutely need to do today. I think I need you to help me. This is my to-do list of what I normally would be doing.
Right,
Can you please help me walk through and talk this out and figure out what
right.
I only need to do today? Because I'm just struggling to even cope right now, and I'm really struggling. And I'm here to tell you right now, this is Athena talking. This happens all the time to me. Okay, if I'm on a deadline, or like we just published an anthology of 20 different authors with all these different barrages of emails, and we're managing all these different things and all these different tasks, which normally is completely fine. But if you're in the middle of a PTSD episode, your executive functioning is impaired, you're managing a lot of tasks, you have stuff going on with your family. I have elderly in-laws that are in and out of nursing homes. I don't even know how to tell you everything else, and my son just deployed again in the military. I literally had to call up one of my safe people and say, I'm not functioning right now. Can you please look at my to-do list and tell me what I really need to do today, because I'm really struggling. I'm here
And
to
that,
tell you to do that.
yep. And that's something that Athena and I do with each other. She'll say, "What's on your list today?" And I'll tell her what's on my list, and I'll say, "What's on your list?" And we'll look at our list, and sometimes we have to say, "Can't be doing that. That's not going to make it. I want to set myself up for success."
Yep.
So pare your list down. You need to eliminate as much as you can and set yourself up for success. Don't set yourself up for failure. When your executive functioning is low, limit your tasks so that you can succeed, because when you fail, it just makes you feel worse, and there goes that downward spiral, and it can get ugly. And
Hey, Kimmy just said that her therapist told her that her to-do list shouldn't be any longer than 4 items. And you know what? Hallelujah. You go, girl. 4 items sounds just fine, unless those 4 items are planning 4 events or a retreat at the end of June and publishing a book, and oh wait, you're publishing 2 more books. Oh wait, you're doing, if your 4 items are big, huge events like that, try to only have one big item on your list per day. Big item meaning something that you cannot start and finish in one day. Only have one item that is big on your list if you have to have it on there. I really, really want to stress that. If you're dealing with a big item that is not going to be completed by the end of the day, try not to have too many other things on the list that are bigger items.
and recognize that sometimes you have to carry things over to the next day. And
Correct.
sometimes tasks have to be broken down into little itty bitty tiny bitty parts so that you can succeed and cross something off the list for today.
And I want to caution people, I know we're coming up close to time. We only have 10 minutes left-ish, but I know we started a little late today, so it should be okay. But this can be, this area here, we studied the PAREN. We're on N right now, no multitasking. And right above that on E, where it says edit your to-do list and that you should employ a safe person and go over your list with them,
Mm-hmm.
I made a mistake, you guys. I'm going to just talk really super briefly, Bobby, about the mistake that I made
Go
in this
for it.
area, okay? When I was
Yes.
working in one of my quote-unquote corporate America jobs, I made the mistake of reaching out to one of the people that I worked with And I shared with her in that moment, without thinking, it was poor judgment on my part, I'm really struggling with this because it doesn't seem like I can complete my inbox of everything that I know I need to do, and it's really overwhelming me right now. And I need to sort of like itemize my list in a way to where I feel like I have a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day, since I know I'm not going to be done with everything. Maybe could you just help me look at this for a moment and sort of organize it in a way that I can set myself up for success? And
Right.
her words were, and I quote, I'm going to get up in your face again, people. You got to log on to YouTube to watch this if you're listening. This is what she said to me. Her exact words were, Athena, it's not like you work at McDonald's or something where you're done at the end of your shift. This is a real job.
Ouch.
Figure it out.
Well, that was
I'm
mean.
like, I'm thinking, really? Really? I'm reaching out to you here. Hand me a lifeline, girlfriend. Throw me a life preserver. Are you really serious right now? oh, her name is Cinnamon. It's not Kimmy. It's Cinnamon. She just tweeted us. It's not pronounced Kimmy. It's pronounced like cinnamon. So it's Simmy. You were right, Bobby. You kept saying Simmy, and I'm like, no, it's Kimmy. Okay, so anyway, I just needed to tell you all right now, be careful who you reach out to. Look at right here. I'm telling you right now, be careful who you reach out to. Do not reach out to people that are not your safe people. They will further damage you. And I felt like the dumbest person in the world, dumb as a box of rocks, when she said that to me. I was like, oh my gosh, there must be something completely wrong with me because I can't even handle my job. And it was
Yeah.
just horrible. And I'm not talking when I was a teenager. You guys, I was almost 40 years old when this happened, okay? So just don't set yourself up for failure. Really employ these PARENT, the acronym down at the bottom of the one page.
Yep.
If you follow those rules, you'll be set up for success, and you won't end up feeling like a big old dummy like I did at the end of the day. Okay, go on, Bobby. Sorry about that. Take it away.
Okay, let's look at the no multitasking. And the reason that we ask you not to multitask, and I understand that our society puts a premium on that. We look at people who can multitask and go, ooh, aren't they great, aren't they wonderful? But when you multitask, when you're struggling with your executive functioning, what it does is it actually it puts too many things in front of you at the same time. What you need to do is actually to limit the things that you focus on to one thing at a time. And it's also a similar thing in this respect is, and someone brought it up last night in chat, when my PTSD is flaring up, I don't like loud noises. I don't like big crowds. And that's right, because your brain is struggling to focus at that time. And when you have too much sensory input, you can feel overloaded. And so you might actually experience some anxiety, some social anxiety when your PTSD is flaring up that you would not normally feel when your PTSD is doing okay and it's calm, because your brain can get so overwhelmed so easily. And when it gets overwhelmed, then it shuts down. So don't multitask. Take one thing at a time. And I know that's hard. I'm a single mom. It's difficult not to have to multitask, to think about, does my child need homework? Does he need something to eat? I have to make a phone call. I have a conference call. I have to do this. I have to do that. It's hard. But it will set you up for success if you stop multitasking as much as you can. If you can't not do it altogether, do the best you can. Cut down as much as you can and try to stop so much overload on your brain.
Yeah, and this acronym down here is just to help you all. If you have some other things that are in your toolbox that we haven't mentioned, we're getting ready to move down to the T in the word parent. But if you have things that have worked for you that we haven't mentioned, you could definitely tweet us or email us or look us up on Facebook, and we're going to put our contact information as well. These are just a really brief list of things that you can put in your toolbox to set yourself up for success so that you will not struggle as much as you have been.
Absolutely. And we're all about helping you not struggle.
Yeah.
So the last one, T, track your progress by using solution-making strategies. Make lists. And I have to stop sharing here for a minute so you can see something. that I have here at my desk. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, and I guess my other 2 are in the other room. This is my life. These notebooks are my life because this is how I track my projects. One notebook means one thing. These 2 notebooks are my work, the work that Athena and I do, the work that I do on my own. And then I have 2 other smaller notebooks. One of them is household stuff like budgeting and money, and the other is just today I have to go grocery shopping. I have to remember to take out the trash because it's Tuesday, those kinds of things. That is how one of the big ways that I manage my executive functioning, especially when my PTSD is bad.
And we talked a little bit about Post-it notes last night too, Bobby.
Yeah.
And then I was mentioning today that there is a digital way that I do stuff. So you have your notebooks, and I, for all of you people out there that are into productivity apps, or you are just literally everything is in your phone or your tablet or your computer or something, then I am here to tell you that if you are a trauma survivor and that you struggle with executive functioning or PTSD or any of that, and we're telling you to use productivity apps, I literally used to leave myself voicemails, and I always use my calendar, and I put everything in the calendar like I was telling you.
Yeah.
To remind me when I have to go to the bank, remind me when I have to pay bills, remind me when I need, if I forget to take my vitamins or I forget to eat. This all sounds very rudimentary and very kindergarten, folks, but I'm telling you right now, it helps me. And if it makes me feel better, I'm going to do it.
That's
so
right.
I literally remind myself of everything in my cute little iPhone here. Yes, pink. And Bobby has notebooks for everything. And then we have one of our sweet little gals last night in chat talk about how she needed to own stock in Post-it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, definitely. So keep on going, Bobby.
Well, I think that's just about it. Let's do a double check, and then we will move on to showing. Let's see. Yep. Oh, if you're trying to make decisions and you're having a hard time sorting things out in your mind, make those old pro and con charts. Take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, write pro on the top of one column, con on the top of the other, and make lists. Employ one of your safe people to sit down and say, okay, this is the choice I have to make. These are what I think are the pros. These are what I think are the cons, and talk through it with them. There is nothing wrong with that. And I have to say, it's a whole lot better. It sets you up for success rather than making your decision in the middle of a PTSD episode and then looking back on it 30 days later and going, why in the world did I do that to myself? So, and if you know what, if you have to postpone making big decisions, I think it's okay to postpone making big decisions while you're in the middle of a PTSD episode.
I wanted to mention that, Bobby, because a lot of times people feel pressured to make certain decisions by a certain time. And it's important to really, really, in order to set yourself up for success, I will give an example. When I was raising my son, again, Bobby's a single mom. She's amazing. I nominated you on someone's Inspired Bloggers website today, my new friend that I met today online, for all the inspiring stuff you do. But when I was raising my son, I had a calendar up on the wall, and I would write out, my son and I would write out our entire week so we would be mentally prepared for what was going to happen the whole entire week, and he would know where I was, and I would know where he was, and I would literally, I would go drop off the car at the mall where he worked, and then I would walk home or take the bus home and, give him the car keys, and we had it all scouted out. We had youth group, and he volunteered, and all the things I was doing in, like, the community. We had it all written out so that we felt mentally prepared. And this sounds very kindergarten, like I said, very rudimentary, but if you have the brain damage that we are talking about, that is not your fault because you incurred years of childhood trauma or abuse, over a period of time.
Right.
And these are some steps that this is a great list for you to keep handy. And there are just some things you learn in life that you will never, ever, ever forget and that you will use every day of your life. And I guarantee you that if you keep this one page and you keep this list, and you really over and over and over again remind yourself of that acronym down at the bottom, PARENT, which I have to mention the irony that I use the word parent as the acronym, because many people that did incur years of childhood trauma, abuse, sexual exploitation, etc. Usually it was because our parents were not parenting us. So here is your chance to love yourself, be your own parent now that you're an adult, and set yourself up for success on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis by using these very simple tips that we've given you.
Yes. And, if you usually don't have a lot of problems with your executive functioning, unless you have a PTSD episode, keep it handy. So when that happens, you're set to go. I want to put up our contact information. I know that we're almost out of time, so let's share that, because that is important. We want you to be able to know how to get a hold of us. On Twitter, and I'm going to read these because people who are listening on a podcast, obviously they can't see this, so I apologize if it looks like I'm doing something redundant to those of us watching the live stream or watching the tape on YouTube or our website. On Twitter, I am Truth is Hers. Athena is at Athena Moberg, and you can reach us jointly together at NMS Project. So NMSPROJECT, the No More Shame Project. Email, I'm BobbyLParish@gmail.com. Athena is Athena at AthenaMoberg.com. And then there's the No More Shame Project at gmail.com. On Facebook, the No More Shame Project has a page, and Athena and I both have pages under our names. And then websites, the NoMoreShameProject.com, BobbyParish.com, and AthenaMoberg.com.
Yes. And we just wanted to make sure that you guys knew how to reach us online, and we love to hear from you. We love the Q&A, and I did promise earlier on in our broadcast that I would be doing some shout outs to all the people that were supportive of No More Shame November by displaying the button, sending the button, retweeting it, posting it up on their blog sites, or using it as their social media avatar. And so I really want to just be good on my promise, Bobby, and
Absolutely.
I want to make sure that I do a little shout out for everyone. Oh, Jack is so sweet. He says that he is writing down all those things, and he says when he writes them all down, it really, really helps.
Yes.
So Simi and Jack, they're both just so awesome. I don't have any more questions that were sent in on the No More Shame hashtag, but I did want to give a shout out to a whole bunch of people on Instagram. And we don't have a No More Shame Project Instagram account yet. We do have my Instagram account, which a lot of people have been reaching out to, and that is just on Instagram. You would just go @Athena Moberg, just like my Twitter handle. Okay. So I wanted to just give a shout out real quick to everyone who supported us with displaying or liking or sharing the No More Shame November button. And I'm almost there. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
Well, let me say that on Facebook and Twitter, I saw Pepper Griggs. I saw Joe using the
Yay!
button.
Thanks, Pepper. Thanks, Joe.
A little L doing it for a while.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone else right now. Oh, Jack has one up. He has one. I think that he
made a fancy one.
He custom made a button. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so Rachel Goodwin.
Yay, Rachel.
Rakita Nicole, Chelsea O. Callahan, Natasha Simon, Michaela Yeager. Oh, Michaela Yeager Moberg. That is mine and my husband's niece. Chuck and Lynn Vogel, those are my amazing friends that brought me to church for the first time when I was 14 years old. Shayla Hunter, Serenity Burkett Everts, Kay Day, Melissa Close, Ryan Evans. That's one of my friends that I've known my whole entire life. Hannah Passapera, Nick Mercer, someone on here named Ecclesiastes, and I can't pronounce the last name, but that's a beautiful first name. There's someone on here, Unspoken Words, Clarence Uriah Smith, which is Pastor Clarence, and he's such an encourager, by the way. And that's not the only ones. There's a whole bunch more here really, really quick. Mrs. Lewis, Hannah Gates, Emma Sony, Eric Dieter, Kai Herrick, she's one of my friends here on Maui, Renee Christine, Rich Mom, shout out Bessie, Shauna, Kayla Richard, Maria Jane, Bobby Umar, Stephanie McAllister, Michelle Howe, she's awesome, Hannah again, and Sophia Chang. She's one of the colleagues of Rachel that does the sexual abuse coaching over in San Francisco, and Glam House Boutique. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to everybody on Instagram that was such an awesome, huge supporter of No More Shame November. And I know I just went over time, Bobby. I'm so sorry, but I had to.
No. We have to do. We want to do that. And you're much more ahead of the ball game with I don't even have an Instagram account. So there.
It's fun. It's fun because it's all just image based. You know, it's all just pictures. You just share your pictures. So.
Well, you know, when I first heard about it, I tried to download it on my computer until I realized it's a phone app.
Just for the phone.
That was how behind the ball game I was. Okay. We are so happy that you're here. I know that this can be a difficult subject to learn about, to try and grasp. Feel free to re-watch the video anytime that you want to and try and get a better handle on it. And feel free to reach out to us and ask any questions. We would love to hear from you truly, and it's not annoying. You don't bother us. You're not a nuisance. We want to hear from you. So please reach out to us if we can help you in any way. Next week, we're going to talk about the abuse cycle. It's typically used in an explanation of domestic violence, but it also has a lot of application for childhood abuse, and it's important that you know this because survivors of childhood abuse have a huge, huge, huge probability of being re-victimized as adults by a partner. So you need to know the abuse cycle so you can recognize it and you can short-circuit that and get yourself out of that relationship and into a safe place before any damage is done. So that's what we're going to talk about next week.
And I just wanted to give a little preemptive to mentally prepare. Really practice excellent self-care next week if you're going to attend chat with us or if you're going to attend here live on our Google Hangout. Because as we discuss the abuse cycle and we go through the different steps, a lot of light bulbs are going to come on for you. You're going to go, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that that was abuse. Oh my gosh, I lived through that, and that, and that, and that. Oh my gosh, and that. Oh my gosh, it's all of it. I should be a poster child for the abuse poster. Oh my gosh, the abuse cycle poster. That's me. And it can be very, 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 very overwhelming. And again, it's that multitasking. You have all these different facets that you're trying to concentrate on. It could be very, very triggering. So I just want to issue a trigger warning if you're going to be watching the podcast or listening to the podcast that is about the abuse cycle next week. Just practice excellent self-care preemptively. I know that I'm completely, just a week ahead of time on this, but I just can't stress enough how overwhelming it can be to find out that you incurred so many years of abuse and you didn't even realize it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yay. Well, like Bobby said, you are the reason we do this. You are the reason why we are here. And we're just grateful for you, and we hope you will reach out to us personally. And we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at Sex Abuse Chat, hashtag Sex Abuse Chat on Twitter, or right here, send us Q&A, hashtag No More Shame. And what did I forget, Bobby? Take it away.
A daytime. If you need a daytime Twitter chat, the evening doesn't work for you. Don't forget now that we have instituted we started it for the UK crowd, but if you need the daytime chat, it will work for you too. So at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Mondays, which is 6 p.m. in the UK, we now are doing a Twitter chat, and the hashtag is CSAQT. As you said earlier, Child Sexual Abuse Question Time. So we now have those two Twitter chats that you can join in on. Either one. Or both.
And that's at 10 a.m. Pacific time every single Monday. So start off your week right and join us.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, everybody.
Okay, we went over on time. Thank you so much, everyone.
It's a pleasure to be here. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Aloha.